What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We got a lot to talk about in terms of Alberta independence. One of those things being Alberta Pension Plan. Whether independence happens or not, this is one key point that Danielle Smith and her other MPs that are joining her along the Alberta Next panel have brought into the discussion fold when talking about better opportunities for Albertans. I'm actually surprised at just how many of those who are probably around the age of receiving pensions are against an Alberta pension plan. In fact, when you start seeing the numbers, and I've seen numbers in the past, but the new numbers are absolutely dumbfounded as to why anybody would not want an Alberta pension plan. You'll actually be more wealthy in terms of what you contribute versus what you get back. If we were to have an Alberta pension plan, and the Ontario government is hiding it from Canadians on a regular basis. In fact, they don't want you knowing just how much money you can actually save. That being said, I was going to do the math and pull up all the articles, but you know what? Sheila Gunn Reid, big shout out to Sheila and Rebel News. Sheila Gunn Reid put out a video recently, and I wanted to let this video sit before coming out so that this video had time to make tracks. I will put a link to this video in the description if you want to go watch the whole thing. Definitely go give a thumbs up on their video at the very minimum. For the work that Rebel News has done doing the number crunching here. But if Alberta were to adopt a pension plan, and any province watching this should really consider asking their MPs what their provinces would stand for if they were to adopt their own provincial plan. Keep in mind, Quebec has had their own pension plan for quite some time. So why is it that it works in Quebec but not anywhere else? Well, the federal government doesn't want anybody hanging on to their money. Take a look at what Sheila shows you in the figures here. It's absolutely astounding.
Let's say you're a median income earner making over $53,000 a year. If Alberta pulled out of the CPP and you stuck those savings in an RRSP or TFSA every year until you hit 65, your total retirement income could end up being about $454,700. You know what we'd get if we stay in the CPP? $264,900 and change.
Now, this is for somebody who's making roughly $50,000 a year. Keep in mind that, 10 years ago, if somebody would have said they made $50,000 a year, you'd say, well, that's a lot of money. Nowadays, not so much, especially when you factor in the taxes. But it says here that retirement income from Alberta Pension Plan plus private savings could be 72% higher than the Canada Pension Plan. So why are so many people against Alberta handling the pension plan and making its own pension plan versus keeping it in Ottawa? I can't count the number of times I've watched video clips of independent reporters at different open houses similar to Alberta Next saying, what do you think about a pension plan? And people are saying, keep my money in Ottawa. I don't want it coming to Alberta. I'd rather let them handle it than you crooks. Who's the crook when you're looking at these figures? Now, believe it or not, Sheila actually gets into what happens if you were making more than $50,000 a year. And again, for the average Canadian who's making 60, 70, get ready because boy, does it get crazy.
That's a 71.6% increase if we went our own way. Still not convinced? Let's say we play it conservative and contribute just a little bit more. Let's say 8.21%. Still less than the CPP's 9.9%. You'd still come out ahead. That same Albertan would retire with $329,640, about 24% more than they'd get under the current setup. And if you're a max earner, pulling in $71,300, the gap is even bigger. With a 5.85% rate, you'd end up with $584,235.
Now, keep in mind, these are contributions that are lower than what the average Canadian pays into the Canada Pension Plan through their paychecks. I believe it's 8%. Sheila mentions it earlier in the video. Again, I'll put a link in the video. Go back and watch the whole thing if you want to see these numbers in full. But when it shows you here that if you're just putting in 5.85 and you're making about $70,000 a year, which still by today's standards is average, middle class, we'll say middle to middle upper. I hate using those terms, but I always say that anything above six figures is usually like middle upper. You decipher it however you want. $584,000 while contributing less. And keep in mind that the savings you could be getting from contributing, if you were to go to the full 8% that you currently pay on your CPP, you'd have more than $500,000. The current rate down here is 8.21. You have 329. Like, what are we doing? Why are Canadians or Albertans so hell-bent on allowing the federal government to collect and remunerate your pension dollars when these are the kind of numbers that we're seeing in Alberta? The funny thing here, and it's the reason I wanted to show this, is that this not only sells on the reason that people in Alberta are clamoring for independence to get away from the federal government. We already talked about corruption. We've already talked about scandals. But when you look at these figures, and this is just one small piece of everything on the scale that Albertans are talking about. For anybody who says you're not going to be better off, these are people that are scared. These are people who are watching their investments. These are people who manage hedge funds. These are people who have a lot of invested money in the idea of provinces remaining in Confederation. But for anybody who's in Ontario, anybody who's in Nova Scotia, anybody who's in Manitoba, British Columbia, anywhere across Canada, when you look at these numbers, what do you think the numbers are in your province for what your provincial government could give you in terms of a pension plan versus what the federal government doles out? I have a lot of viewers on this channel that are in retirement age. And I hear from them a lot, and I hear them say all the time, I can't afford to live. I can't afford today's rental prices. I can't afford the cost of living when it comes to overpriced groceries, overpriced utilities, the cost of fuel. I can't go anywhere. I live in my tiny home. I've had to downsize. You name it. I've seen it all in the comments. So why wouldn't somebody want the provincial government to handle their pensions if this could be the outcome? If we could see some form of affordability, in fact, 74% more. Does it sound like a bad idea still? Does it sound like maybe you're being robbed? That somebody's taking the money that you work hard for and it's working harder for them than it is for you? These are the reasons we push for independence in this province. These are the reasons that everyone across this country should be livid and start looking into just what goes into the government versus what could come back. You might be surprised. And when people start talking about maybe it's time to leave, maybe it's time to get away from the federal government, you'll have a clearer picture of understanding just why people are upset. It's not just a carbon tax. It's not just that Mark Carney's the prime minister or that the Liberals have been in for more than 10 years. I've always said that ever since the Value of Freedom came out, it's down to the dollars. It's how much money are we giving out versus what we're getting back. If this doesn't make sense to people, I don't know what will. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Are you for an Alberta pension plan if these are the numbers that actually yield you those kind of returns? Do you think you'd like to save 74% more on your pension or get 74% more than you're currently getting by spending less in contributions? Let me know your thoughts down below. Also, let me know down below why you think those in Alberta are still yelling, "Get your hands off my pension, leave it in Ottawa." I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about that. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure as you hit that button, you click the bell for all notifications so you never miss a beat whenever a video drops on this channel. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show, where I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we go back and forth through everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I always look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.